Welcome back to Behind the Box. Today we're going to take a look at Jabberwocky by Jellybean Games. So thanks to Jellybean Games for sending this our way so we could take a closer look. This game is going to be on Kickstarter on the 13th of November, so coming soon. We are going to be looking at a review copy, so things may be subject to change, but it's looking great so far.
It really is, yeah. So, Jabberwocky is a deck of cards that you can use to play multiple different types of games, each of which have been inspired by something mentioned in the poem Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. So, we played the two-player games that come with the game. We didn't play Slithy or Bandersnatch because Slithy is a game for 3 to 7 players, but it's a negotiation game that sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bandersnatch is a solo puzzle game, and we aren't really solo gamers. So the first one is Gyre. Now Gyre is an area control game where you'll lay the cards out in front of you in a 3x5 grid, and you'll be pushing and pulling gems around this grid to try and get your coloured gems onto your coloured cards with no other presence on them, which means you can then flip them face down. If you flip all of your coloured cards face down before your opponents do, you win the game. Now this was really a lot more strategic than I was expecting from a simple card game. But it was really, really cool, this idea of moving around a board. You can block your opponent, because when you play two-player, there's a third neutral player that either of you can control, but you can use it to sort of block in the opponent so they can only move just left and right a couple of spaces, because you're blocked by wherever your opponents are on the outside of this grid.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a really nice game. It was very quick to play. Pretty easy to pick up and start playing, but with a lot of depth, and you've got to really plan out your moves. And there's a really cool mechanic as well. When a card gets flipped face down, it allows you to push and pull gems one extra space. So you can collect gems more and more and more, and then essentially spit them out really far and just take over a card really quickly. I really like this one.
Yeah. It did surprise me how complex, in a sense, how deep and thinky and strategic you have to be when you're playing this game. I found myself really having to think about my turns on this one. So it did surprise me because the first game that we played, Mimsy, was a little bit more on the lighter side. And that's what I was thinking all the rest of the games would be like. But it was kind of the other way around, wasn't it? So Mimsy is a Mancala style game for 2 to 3 players where you pick up and drop off gems on cards, trying to be the first person to get 5 gems onto your secret goal card. I really liked this game a lot. I grew up with a Mancala board. I used to play it with my mom, and so we had gems just like these that we would drop into the different little pockets. And the problem that I always had with Mancala is that, or at least the style that we played it in, if you drop gems into a pocket that already has gems, you get to pick up all of those and keep going. And Mimsy kind of, fixed that, because somebody could theoretically go on for quite a while and then the other player gets kind of bored. But in Mimsy, they have a rule where you can do that if, when you drop your gems in onto the card, it matches another gem that's on that card, and then you can scoop it up. So we found that we didn't really carry on for too long to the point where the other player was getting bored.
That was the first thing after a couple of rounds of playing it, and you were like, I prefer this to the classic one you used to play, because like you said, if my last gem is a yellow and I drop it onto a card, even if it's covered in other gems like green and purple, I don't get to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I never found myself waiting a long time to play again. At most you'd maybe get 3 goes at picking up and dropping stuff, but even then it's only by like 3 or 4 cards. You're not doing full rotations of the loop of cards. Now I've never played a Mancala style game before. You've explained it to me before when you've seen them, but I really liked it. I thought this was a really nice, lightweight game. I could see us playing this a lot, just because it's such a nice, quick, easy game to set up and just get going. And it's cool because you want to have your card be the one that has 5 gems put on it first, on the corners, effectively, of this triangle. But you don't know what the other person's one is, and when you're playing 2-player, one of them is nobody's, and so if somebody finishes that, then they get to win instead. So it's this game of trying to plan out, and it was just really nice, but it wasn't too heavy, because, like we said, Gyre was a lot more complex, and the next game was even more so. This was Borogoves, And borogoves is a map building game where one person is building the map using the different cards with numbers on them, and the other person is controlling the gems, trying to explore those cards. After one round, you add up how many points you got each, because that's the whole point, is trying to earn these points, and then you swap roles. Now, you'll do the exploration by moving gems from one card to another, but you have to move an equal number of gems as the card's value. And this is where it really becomes a difficult game for both sides, because as the person moving gems, you want to be managing these gems so carefully. They start off the board in what they call the nests. And then that means you can move them to anywhere, but once they're all out, you are very limited. And that was the big mistake I made in our very first game, was I got all of my gems out immediately, and then you just made this snaking trail that I had to try and follow, which was really, really difficult, because you can kind of bottleneck me. And this is the sort of game you want to play it a couple of times to really learn the strategy and learn the easy pitfalls that you can hit with this, because this is a game where if two people are equally skilled, it will come down to the smallest mistake means that another person would win.
Yeah. So another, again, very strategic, quite thinky game that surprised us out of this deck of cards. We're seeing, a lot more of this now, aren't we? This is the third game that we've taken a look at, really, where people are designing a system of cards and then games to go with it, which is neat on the one hand, because you're getting several different game types to feed each want that you have in a game, but just for like one smaller price, so you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, kind of. But on the other hand, if you're the kind of player like me that connects to the game through its components and through its board and the player board and the chunky dice and the cool little miniatures and things like that, if you're that kind of person and that's how you are stimulated by the game and how you connect with it, it can be kind of difficult to play games like this, especially if they're, a little bit more complex and a little more thinky, because it is abstract and you do kind of have to release some of that and accept that, those gems can be all kinds of different things and the cards can be all kinds of different things. So it is a little bit of a challenge for somebody like me. Yeah,
you definitely struggled with that, especially in the more complex games. And that is the next thing I really want to talk about, is the complexity of these, I found, was actually really an impressive side of it. I think I would enjoy playing this game with other people that enjoyed more strategic and heavier games, because they were just so well designed. They were really just tight and so quick. That was what was crazy to me. They were so quick. Each of these games lasts about 15 minutes, and we didn't play Slithy or Bandersnatch, but they both play again in about 15 minutes. We read the rules. They're distinctly different, and like you said, you get that bang for your buck, because let's say you're a new board gamer coming into the industry and you're not sure what type of games you're going to enjoy. Something like this is perfect for you, because you're getting 5 games for the cost of 1, and they're all very different games. You're getting a negotiation game that's a bit more party feeling. You're getting a really, really good abstract, lightweight, thinky game in the Mancala Mimsy. But you're also getting like a really cool area control game. It's like a taster. It's like you're buying something that okay, I'm not going to play this long term necessarily, but this is a great way for me to learn what I like, what sort of mechanics I enjoy, what my friends enjoy, so I know what to tailor my purchases towards going forward. This is perfect for that.
Yeah, and I can see it also working really well for, anybody that travels. It's nice and small and compact, so you can have all kinds of different game types in just one little package. And we do just have to mention the art. It's fabulous. It's very charming. They've just re-examined that nostalgic childhood story of Alice in Wonderland, and so you get to get a fresh look at their interpretation of those characters on the cards and things. So that's really nice.
Yeah, and all the colours are distinct enough. It's a nice green, it's a nice yellow, and a nice purple that really stand out. The character design's really nice. You don't get confused playing it, like what's supposed to be what. It's just a really simple but very effective graphic design and art choice, I think. We really enjoyed that about it.
Yeah.
So that is the game. That is Jabberwocky. We will leave a link in the description to the Board Game Geek page and the Kickstarter link once that goes live in a couple of days. And if you have any questions about the game, or if you're going to be backing it, let us know down below. We'll do our best to either help answer questions or help make that decision for you. But yeah, we'll leave our social media as we always do. Until the next one, we'll see you soon. Bye. There's some points where you feel like you're circling a point and you're not quite landing. You're just missing that bullseye, and you're like, how do I get to that point? I'll just keep talking until I figure it out. And then you're like, oh, got there. And you're like, oh my god, that probably sounded insane. And then you watch and you're like, oh, I made some really good points. I needed to say all of that. Really helped embellish what I was trying to do.